Welcome, my beautiful souls. Are you ready to go back in time? We are going to a past life, your the last past life. And well, I shouldn't say that. For some, it may be a different past life, but we are traveling back to past lives. And what we're going to do is see if there was anything that was left undone, anything that may have followed you into this lifetime, including love. I have to tell you, this is one of my favorite readings to do. Truly. I can't wait. Like, I try to do it only once a month, but I can't wait to do it. Um, so a lot of times this has to, you'll find like an old love. And if there's something going on in this lifetime, we'll be able to connect that for you. So that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to use the past life tarot to go back. We will use the universal tarot for the current life. So we will be connecting them. We will use the Gilded Tarot to clarify and go deeper. We'll put those over there. And I did bring out the major arcanas because I feel like I want to take one, or I want to take a few on your past life, or whatever wants to come out, and then on your current life. So we're going to start in the past life. Just see, what your life was about, what was going on, what you had to deal with, um, maybe what you have accomplished. This isn't all about, you know, what didn't I do? Some of you may have found soulmate, a twin flame, and I don't know, I just get this feeling for a lot of you that this love has followed you into this lifetime. So we'll see, like, if there's any issues in this lifetime. Our past life will give us a good clue. If not the actual reason, there may be issues if there are. But I just feel like love's going to come out. So I'm not going to deny whatever wants to come out. I'm going to let it come out. Um, and I say, let's go ahead and get into this reading. It's really for all signs. My readings, my channel, I feel like when you come across one of my readings, unless you're already a subscriber, I feel like you're just part of our soul family. And if that's the case, I just want to welcome you. I do feel like we're all one big soul family, and my guides who I read through are so generous. They allow me to feel that you are right here in the room with me. Like your spirit is. Um, but I just want you to know that, like, I really connect to your energy, whether I know you or not. And I have to thank my guides and your guides for that, by the way, because your guides know, or your guides may have nudged you into this reading. So just keep what I would say is have your spiritual ears on, especially because we're going back. We are time traveling. So let's go ahead and begin. So this will be for current life. So I'm going to put these to the side. This is going to be for our past life. But I feel like what I want to do first is bring in the major arcanas. Again, I'm just shooting for a couple. And the ones that we're bringing out right now will be connected to your past life. Um, I'm sure there's still some remnants of it, though, in this lifetime. Okay, that card didn't want to come up, so we shall take it. The Hierophant. The Hierophant. Although I'm not really reading signs, and I do know that drives some of you crazy, but it's just the way I read. I feel like, the reason why I don't like always say the sign, though that is Taurus, um, is because we carry all the energy of the pentacles, the air, the water, and the fire. Um, we're all soul connected. So, anyways, we have the Hierophant. Hmm. So, could certainly talk, that's about faith. And then we have Temperance. Temperance, card of Sagittarius. That, my friends, is about divine timing. But I do want you to notice, since I did bring up the word love, what she's doing. She has two beautiful cups in her hands, and it is like she is making sure both these cups are equally filled. It's the soulmates. Temperance's first message is patience, but then it is about trusting in divine timing. And then we have interesting justice. Justice, card of Libra. Justice is about balance, finding balance. Some of you, there may be something that either you cut out of your life or was cut out of your life in this past life. Justice is about making one whole again. So we'll see. That's interesting, though. We have like this man or woman of faith, we have divine timing, and then justice. So I feel like something may like I feel like for some reason you had to use that sword of justice, or that sword was used on you. And that means to me like cutting of ties. However, because it's following temperance, which is all about divine energy, if there was something, if that sword was used, it would have been in your benefit. Um, but I feel like what justice is doing here is saying there, I have a feeling there was something unfair in a past life. And I feel like justice is saying, but in this lifetime, the current lifetime, we are going to make you whole again. So it could certainly talk about some type of karmic relationship, some type of karmic energy. And maybe we needed to go through that. Maybe we were paying back karma. And, the good news is I feel like if anyone had, like, let's just say karma to pay back, I feel like you did. So that wasn't a wasted lifetime, because once you pay back that karma, it's paid off for life. It's like once you pay it, well, I was going to say once you pay your house off, it's paid off for life. But, this day and age, who knows? So, anyways, the Hierophant, faith, does feel like a man or a woman of God. And temperance, it's just making me feel like this person deserves someone who is like-minded. Hmm. All right, I'm going to slide these to the side to give us lots of room. So let's go ahead and bring in the past lives. By the way, everything is always pre-shuffled before you get here. I spend quite a bit of time shuffling. That's really when I'm in my meditative state. All right, past lives. Look at this. No wonder I was talking about karma, lessons, and blessings. This is why I was talking about karma. It's interesting. I've really learned to trust, like what I'm feeling, what my guides are putting within me. So, right off the bat, I know that some of you, listen, lessons, but then blessings. I feel like the lessons may have been in the past life, and the blessings, just like I felt Justice was saying, is making you whole in this lifetime. Some of you may say, well, I don't feel whole, Sandy. Well, maybe this blessing hasn't reached you yet. Then we have farm. We have medicine man or woman. You know, I feel like a lot of you, this would definitely fit. I feel like some of you, and in the time period make complete sense. Like I could see some of you like being on this farm, like this farm is yours. And I can see you, I'm looking for a certain word. I don't know if it's foraging, um, but I could see you taking like plants, mushrooms, different elements and like making your own medicine out of it, but not necessarily for you, for others. I feel like it's probably part of what you did. Interesting. She's got a dream catcher right there. Catching dreams. All right. Wow, we got a lot. All right, we have imprisonment or slavery. We'll see. It doesn't fit yet. We have transportation, prosecution, inquisition, trust and faith. Exactly what the Hierophant and Temperance is asking for. Trust and faith. We have the high priest or priestess. And again, I know many of you are on this path in this lifetime, but I feel like you have some wisdom of a past lifetime. Like some of you, where, you may be into like homeopathic type medicine, but I don't want to just say that. Like I feel, like yoga, like you're using. I feel like in this lifetime, if you've extract the wisdom of this past lifetime, and maybe that's exactly why you're here. Um, Not only do I feel that you had psychic abilities, but again, I feel you're using, what you're growing. It's almost like you know what you're growing because, people are coming to you. People are coming to you for help. People trust you. And, it's interesting because it almost feels like, but I do have to keep it like a little hush hush. Hmm. Almost like if I get caught, I could be thrown into jail. So, not sure what you were selling. I do feel that it was helping. I feel like you were helping a lot of people. And, you know, I feel like you went through the stages of learning, but I feel like it's from your ancestors, like not picking up a book, like not a medical book. I feel like this is something that was passed on, like from one ancestor to the other. Maybe the land also was passed on, but I still get this energy of like hush hush, though those who came to you truly trusted you. They may have called you the high priest or high priestess, but I do feel like in the same breath, I can't get caught. Interesting. Okay. We have finances. Well, that makes sense because many times on a farm, you know, it's hard. It's hard financially. So for some of you, like this is what you did, like, kind of like a side hustle, though I feel like I'm disrespecting it when I say that. We have wars and battles, and then we have communal living. Excuse me, I just lost my voice. Let me slide this up a little bit. And I'm just going to take the top card and fill out our block. Food or hunger. Interesting, food and hunger is mirroring finances. So, I don't feel like in a past life I had a lot of money, but I don't feel like I really needed a lot of money. I do feel I needed to keep this farm going, because again, I feel like it was handed down. Some of you may be on land right now that your ancestors lived on, but I really feel the energy of like homeopathic medicine. And, you know, they didn't have the FDA back then, but I'm sure there were still certain laws or rules around, what you could do. I get this feeling like maybe some of the items, and I'm just going to say it, I feel like some could be marijuana. Um, and I don't have a problem with that, but it could have definitely been looked down upon. So I often, when we do past life readings, I often get this energy of you on a spiritual path. Now, a spiritual path, but yet you're still following what your ancestors did. There's a lot of wisdom that was passed down to you, and chances are you passed it down to the next generation. Um, or let's say if you had crossed over before that, well, the next generation, I feel like, just picked up where you left off. Now, you may even be the next generation, but again, there seems to be like a lot of trust for you in what you do, like a lot of belief that you truly can help. I do feel like people looked at you like otherworldly. You weren't walking around with money in your pocket, but I definitely feel that you felt happy, satisfied, but you had to be careful. You know, I feel like you were the high priest or priestess, and I feel like you still are. You never lose that. It's just the recognition in this lifetime. And it's also interesting because I feel like all of a sudden I'm getting this feeling of, maybe I did start to do well. And when I say I mean you. I'm just you right now. Um, maybe I did start to do well, but I feel like what you did then I feel like you would help others. Like you would take anything extra you had and you would help others. And even though it doesn't feel like you had a lot, it just feels natural. Just naturally what I would want to do. Justice, the law, imprisonment. I'm not feeling like slavery, but I am feeling like I got to be careful because what I'm doing is somewhat frowned upon, if not completely frowned upon. And, if I mean, the word is out. Don't get me wrong, the word is out. And I feel like people just naturally came to you for help. And when it says trust and faith, well, the Hierophant is all about faith, but I feel like this is other people truly trusting you. I feel like as you moved into this energy more and more, I feel like you left the farm. Well, I mean, that was still your house, don't get me wrong, but I feel like you went out into, you know, looking to help those who maybe couldn't come to you. Very caring here, very loving, very compassionate. I see it all. I see the ability. I definitely feel like some of you have continued like making, or you're getting these ideas or epiphanies. Maybe I should look at this, or, and again, it feels like homeopathic. You know, you had this wisdom. This wisdom didn't leave you. It's just, when we're born with amnesia, but there's certain elements of this I feel that are just natural. Like in its time, probably in your teenage years, you started to feel, I feel like you started to feel there might be something a little different about you. And, it could also be that energy of like, well, I don't like feeling different. Yet I feel, let's just say you're starting on this path. I feel like there will be a lot of respect that will follow. And again, it's like, even if you don't remember, let's just say some of the recipes, I feel like you're gonna come across them some way, somehow. I feel like if this reading is for you, something is going to pique your interest. Where if you're not doing something, homeopathic, you may be thinking of that. It's interesting too because we have wars and battles down here, but I don't feel like this is you going off to war. I feel like this is you helping the soldiers that are coming home from war. I feel like that might be where one of the places you went, like as soldiers were coming home, you went to meet them where they were at. And again, it had to be hush hush, but I can see you putting like ointments on like open wounds. I really feel like you could work magic. It's not magic, but I feel like you could work magic, like you knew what you were doing. And again, your ancestors had a big part in this. I feel that you definitely carried psychic abilities in your previous life, and I feel like you would carry them in this lifetime too. Again, you may not call yourself psychic, but there's a part of you that definitely would be open to, let's just say, spirituality. And it's interesting because I feel like, yeah, I did not make a lot of money. And I feel like eventually, I ran the farm, but I feel like the farm really was the backdrop of the medicine I was growing. It's almost like the farm was the facade of what I was really doing. Though I do feel like you're still working the farm. It's interesting because I feel like some of you had, I'm feeling like two boys, like two strong boys. Interesting how I'm not feeling a partner though. I wonder why. Like at this moment, I'm not feeling that there's a partner. And I feel like the farm is yours, handed down to you. But you do have two boys. So there had to be a partner somewhere along the road, somewhere along the way. Well, we'll clarify and see. But all of a sudden I'm feeling two boys and I'm feeling two strong boys. And I feel like they're the ones who took care of the land, took care of the animals, did what you do on the farm while you did your thing. I don't feel like you were hiding any of it. Matter of fact, they probably picked up the same wisdom that you had. I feel like you taught them, but yet at the same time, we also have to keep the facade up. And even though I do feel like you got money, you got paid for what you were doing, and again, people were seeking you out. Almost like I knew your grandma and she helped my grandma, and I feel like those were the stories like my mother knew your mother and she really blessed our family and now it's your turn and you're doing, and I feel like and as each ancestor continued on, only became wiser and more knowledgeable. Maybe there was more ways to well, I feel like you took some real chances and like I see like different jars of different types of medicines for different conditions. Hmm. All right, let's see what's on the bottom of the deck. The arts. It looks like my guitar right there in the room. Wow. It's like all of a sudden I can see you and your family and your friends sitting around like a campfire. And, I don't necessarily feel like I was playing a guitar, but I feel like they were singing. Um, I feel like there was a lot of joy in this family, a lot of knowledge, not a lot of money. But that's okay. I feel it's interesting how I felt karmic, right, from the get go. But here, I'm not really feeling where like there was anything karmic yet. Just feels like it's just who you are. It's just who you are. I have a feeling there's one person though, like one neighbor. What's that saying? Um, Good fences make good neighbors or something like that. But I feel like there's one person who kind of gave you a hard time, almost like trying to get you caught. But then I feel like that's where your boys also came in. It's almost like like, I feel like there was this person who came onto your land and was kind of threatening you, right? I'm going to turn you in, this and that. But then I feel like the boys came out and stood in front of you. And it was like, you have to get through us to get to our mother. And I do feel like, by the way, I do feel like it's a female. Um, though you could be a man in this lifetime and a female in the last lifetime. Oh, all right. Let's bring in the Gilded Tarot. Let's go over this. I feel like the story just kind of jumped off the page. Or off the table. And I really feel the empathy and the compassion within your heart, and how you wanted to help. And again, it wasn't for the money, though I do feel like you got paid. Though I have to say, I feel like some of it was like we bartered a lot of things. Like maybe I needed something for the farm. So what I would do is offer, my medicine in exchange for, like, I do feel some of that. But I also feel like you made, I'm not going to say great money, but again, I feel people were seeking you out for your expertise. So what you were doing was helping. You weren't like what's the word? Like a snake oil salesperson. But you had worked. And I feel like it worked wonders because, again, you know, I don't feel like we were in the time when, I mean, of course you could advertise yourself, but I feel like I couldn't. I couldn't. Because if I did, then I would see a lot of trouble. But I don't feel like you had to. That's the thing. I feel like from your ancestors and the people who would see them, I feel like as they passed, then it was you that they came to see. And I feel like, all of a sudden now I'm feeling like you were a little girl when you really started to pick up this knowledge. It's like sitting at a table with your mom and your grandmother, and they're having a discussion that maybe you're not even included in, but you're picking up that knowledge. You're just naturally picking it up. Because I feel like when it's your time, you're ready. Not only are you ready, but again, you feel like an expertise at it. I feel like I did cut them, but let's cut them again. All right. Oh, interesting. Um, Interesting. Now, I'll tell you why this is interesting because when I get my cards ready, one of the first things I do is make sure they're all in the upright. That way, if they come in the reverse, I know they're in reverse. Well, these did not come in reverse, but they came face up. Interesting. I must have shuffled these cards 20 times. So let's look at what came out. Hello, lovers. Hello, lovers. Card Gemini. But that doesn't necessarily mean you're a Gemini in this lifetime. The meaning of this card's a head over heart decision. But you know what? I feel like this is that lover I was looking for. Because you had those two boys with someone, and, it was the father. There was a singular father. But where was he? Maybe he was at war. Anyways, lessons and blessings. So the lover's coming over that. That is interesting. Over the timepiece at the same time, that would relate back to Mother or to Temperance, divine timing. And then we have the Queen of Cups coming over the farm. I get that because I feel like if anyone, and listen, I'm not water, but I feel like this is the energy of caring, of love, of that motherly type of energy, kind of like the Empress. She's holding a cup in her hand. But what I feel this cup right now is representing a love of what I do. like a love of giving back. And you probably still have those same qualities, like giving back is important to you. And when I say giving back, it could be your own business. So you're still making money, but I feel, this empathy has followed you. So this queen over the farm is mirroring the wars and battles. So I feel like that may be where our partner is at. Yet the boys took over when dad had to leave. So, anyways, there's that. There's that partner I was looking for. And coming up as the lovers, that's kind of beautiful. And it makes sense that the father wasn't there as we're doing this reading because you can see the feminine, right? She's in current energy, but I mean back then. And the masculine, they can still feel each other, right? But he's not there. She can feel his energy. We have temperance again over medicine man or woman. And then we have beautiful, the sun. I feel like you were slick. And I mean that in a way of, well, I already know that you knew what you were doing. But for some reason, I'm picking this up as like you knew the avenues to get through so you wouldn't be, let's say, prosecuted. Because again, what you're doing doesn't seem completely legal, but it's only because of their lack mentality, not yours. Or we want, like I could see a doctor being like, no, I want them to take, let's say, like an antibiotic. And you're like, well, they don't need that antibiotic. I I can take care of this. And I don't know that you would say that to the doctor, but I do feel like you would say that to the client. The sun's also illuminating the lovers. So the one thing this is letting us know is that this love was a great love. And, I'm starting to feel that I may have lost my partner. Maybe it was through a war. You know, like I feel they may have crossed before me. And that may be why I'm feeling the boys so strongly taking care of the farm. Like I feel like they probably worked side by side with their dad, but then their dad was called away. So I feel like they just stepped up, which is beautiful. All right, well, let's keep going. We have the hermit over transportation. The hermit. Wow. The hermit totally makes sense here. By the way, I have to say that we have the lovers and the hermit connected. So Gemini and Virgo connected. Well, they both share Mercury. So that could speak about where some of you in this lifetime, like the blessings that you give are actually coming from your spirituality, coming from your voice. This is definitely showing me that the wisdom that you gained didn't leave you, that it only continues or will continue to multiply if that's the direction you decide to take. Or if you're already on that path, then I feel like this is great confirmation for you. The hermit is seeking, well, this hermit is not in a cave. You'll either see the hermit going in a cave, and what to me means the dark night of the soul, or the hermit emerging from the cave. And when the hermit emerges from the cave, the hermit's found some real answers and really seeking spiritual answers here. And now this hermit is sharing this beacon of light outwardly to the world. I feel like that's why it's coming over the train. Like something that continued way beyond you. But it feels like your family. It is your family, your ancestors, and you that began it all. Like the credit goes to you. Again, I feel part of your intuition or your psychic abilities. I feel like you did, like, I'm feeling this more and more that the one that I loved, I feel like they were called away and I feel like I lost them. Like, I feel like they died. But I feel that you also can still communicate with them, or back then, you could still communicate with them. You know, very spiritual, very psychic in this lifetime, in this past lifetime. All about your spirituality, all about your fellow man and woman and what you can do and how you can help. It meant so much to you. I feel like the father of the boys was definitely the love of your life. And I don't feel like you remarried in this lifetime, in this past lifetime. I don't feel like you got remarried. I get this feeling like, how could I? How could I? How could I ever find someone like him again? And I feel like I have no interest in looking for other love. Beautiful. The Four Swords, healing. Wow. Doctor, heal thyself. And in today's age, I would call you a doctor. Maybe a homeopathic doctor. I don't know if that's an actual title. But let's just say working in different realms other than like big pharma. I feel like you definitely were a healer. I mean, I knew that from the get go, but now it's literally showing that. And it's also showing that you had a love for it. And I feel like that's so important, right? You truly loved what you were doing, even though, you would not call yourself rich, but you were rich. I shouldn't have said that because I feel like you would have called yourself rich. But you weren't rich as it relates to money, but you were rich within love. That's why I feel like I couldn't like, how could I ever even try to replace this person that I lost? My love, my husband. And I feel like my family, my boys, my farm, my land, and what I do keeps me satisfied in life. So love doesn't seem to be like a major, like I must have new love. Because I feel like there's still a connection even after the husband crossed, I feel this spiritual connection. That makes so much sense now that we look at this and we see the masculine, right, who is not in human form, more spirit form, but look at how she can still feel his energy. It's like that connection never left. Now, I would say that type of love probably followed you into this lifetime. So there's some, uncompletion. Well, yeah, I feel like you did get married. I feel like you had a long life together. Well, maybe not that long, but long enough. Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I do know, but let's keep going. Look at that, the Ace of Cups over trust and faith, right below temperance, divine timing. We have the star, card of Aquarius, but it doesn't have to be an Aquarius. This is about one's hopes, dreams, and wishes. And boy, do I feel like you could help others manifest their own dreams, hopes, and wishes. And that feels like the psychic part of you. I don't feel like you only like did recipes, homeopathic recipes. I feel like your wisdom, like a conversation with you, because I do feel like you were a healer and probably still am. Um, but it feels like you can heal in many different ways. We have the Seven of Wands over finances. Seven of Wands is about defending one's ground, so to speak. Um, it can be defensive energy. It's mirroring food and hunger. And it's interesting because I feel like one of the boys protected the money, like that was what I was meant to do. It's almost like one of the boys could take that money and they knew how to multiply it. Like they had their own talents. I feel like there was one boy in particular. I feel both very loving, very strong, loved their dad, definitely loved you. Um, they definitely stepped in and took over dad's work. But then I feel like there's one who may have like talked to you about what you do and said, I can take, what you do and I can help you grow it to higher stages. I don't know if you agreed because again, I feel, well, maybe the times are starting to change a little. There's a little bit more freedom because it's almost like the sun is like, I can jump on the train, go to Dodge City, and sell what it is you're harvesting, and I can do it quietly. It's like one boy more than happy to be a farmer, more than happy to work the land, and I feel like it actually brought me joy. Being out in the land is what I loved. But I feel the other boy had more of a business type mind. Definitely still helped on the farm, don't get me wrong. Um, but had a business mind. And, it's interesting because I said how this gift seemed to follow generation after generation. And what I saw was a grandmother and a mother sitting at a table and a little girl, and the mother and grandmother just talking. But this little girl is absorbing all this information. Well, now I feel the same thing for the sons. I feel like there was one son who really paid attention, who really understood what you were doing, and even saw how it truly helped. They both loved you dearly. They're just different. They're just different. One, it's funny how I said there's no snake oil salesman, but it's not snake oil. So I shouldn't have said that. But I could see this one son, and it feels like the elder, um, who then takes your recipes, well, not your recipes, takes your potions. And I feel like they're going to the city, and the city is definitely dirt roads, but I do feel like there are, I can see a post office, I can see a saloon, um, I see, what's the word? Like, oh God, like stage wagon. So I feel like we're getting closer and closer to the time period. All right, well, let's keep going. It's funny because I released a podcast where I wanted you to know like how I ended up on my spiritual journey. Um, and one of the things I said on there is when I started doing tarot, I really knew nothing about what their meanings were. But here's the thing. I mean, I've been doing it for so many years, but and I know what the meanings are, but many times it's not what it's meant. What I pick up is not like what the meaning of the card is, but it's definitely showing me, it's definitely letting me know what it means in this reading. All right, well, let's keep going. It's interesting because I'm looking at the star, which again is about your hopes, your dreams, your wishes. And right next to it being the Ace of Cups. However, I feel like I'm not looking for love. I was blessed with the love of my life, and I know that. And I just feel like, how can I replace that? And I just feel no interest. So this Ace of Cups coming out, connected to the star and temperance. I have a feeling this is talking about this love that has traveled into this lifetime. It feels like the blessing. It's like our love was cut short. So it feels a little unfulfilled. So I feel like this Ace of Cups is what's coming or what has already come into this lifetime. We'll see. Because we're going to do a lifetime. We're going to do the current life also. But look at that, the death card, right over wars and battles. So, what I was picking up now, for me, anyways, this is the confirmation that I was feeling it correctly. So, I do feel like, let's just say the father did cross over, though the mother and the father, it's like they still stayed connected, but on a spiritual wavelength. So, pretty clear that the father died in war or some type of energy like that. But remember with the death card, the meaning is about a rebirth. Well, did this love have a rebirth in this lifetime? It's almost like I can't wait to get to the current life now. And it's interesting also because when I do these past life readings, I pick up, let's just say 80% of the time, I pick up those who are healers, in the different ways that you used it in past lives, but how it has followed you into this lifetime. And if some of you are just starting on that path, I feel like just remember that, once you really get into this, or let's say you allow yourself to really be open to receiving, from your ancestors, or some of you may have those actual recipes. Interesting. Some of you, interesting because I just realized I also have what is called a recipe box right here that was handed down from my great grandmother to my grandmother to my mother to my sister and now to me. So all the beautiful women in my life have had this in their life and now it's in our life. And I really treasure it. How interesting, right? It's a recipe box, but it's something I treasure more than anything else. Matter of fact, when I moved to Sam's house, I could only take 2 suitcases. Well, I found a way to bring it. Found a way. There was no way I was leaving it behind. Okay, so we have the moon. The moon. Card of Pisces, ruler of Cancer. The moon can be very dreamy energy, can talk about uncertainties. Sometimes the uncertainties can be a little fearful. Okay. I'm also picking up a sign. Now this is not for everyone, so please don't be like, okay, well, if you don't have this moon sign, then you're not for me. But I am picking up some of you have the same moon sign, and I'm talking about in love. Now, again, I feel like that's probably just a few people. And also, I just realized we have the feminine and now the masculine energy. And really connected not only to divine, but that Ace of Cups. Wow. The lovers would be the feminine, the masculine. The lovers it's undeniable chemistry. It is a question, a head over heart decision, but many times that's not how I feel it. I feel it more about, and I love the sun mirroring it. It's just giving me, like, it's allowing me to feel how deep this love really was. Like, they were a partner. They were a partner in life in all ways. And that connection, again, didn't end due to death. I mean, it ended, but they were still able to connect to each other. Look at this Knight of Wands. So as we leave this reading, we leave with the Knight of Wands. Well, that's passion. Many times it's passion rushing in. I feel like a knight is sent by a queen or a king, and a knight will always complete their mission. Come hell or high water. If I'm meant to find you, I'll find you. So I feel like it's moving us now into our current life. And just the way this is right here, this Knight of Wands with the Ace of Cups and the Queen of Cups, that line alone feels quite beautiful because she's holding that cup. Here is that cup. And here is that passion. And I feel like I just literally said that the lovers have this undeniable chemistry. Like, I can try to deny it, but what would be the sense? I feel like the star is the blessings that are coming into this lifetime, current lifetime. So let's not forget we have faith, we have temperance, divine timing, and then we have justice. So some of this could have been, it doesn't feel karmic, though I felt that in the beginning. But if it is, lessons learned, what do they bring? Blessings. And by the way, if there were any karmic lessons and they were learned, well, then you never have to repeat them. But in a way, I'm not really seeing where, other than losing the love of my life, but I feel very proud of my boys. And even though they're different, like it's almost perfect because one wants to stay on the farm, one wants to work the land, and the other one is more interested in what mom does. And I have a feeling he will become a high priestess. I definitely feel that. I feel he also carries a lot of his father's traits, which feels very loving. I feel like this was a relationship that we were blessed to have. Like, I know that. Like, even if it was cut short, what a blessing it was. Okay, let's keep all this in mind, but I'm going to pick this up. And normally I leave this out, but more cards came out than, let's just say, I expected. So I am going to pick them up to give us room. But we'll remember. Let's remember everything. Like I won't forget. Okay, let's give ourselves a little room. And we are going to use, if I can grab them, the Universal Tarot. So now we're moving into this lifetime. And the lessons, what's followed us. Um, I feel like when you know who you were, or you know that you had those special abilities, it feels like it makes it more okay, or it's allowing you to trust in your abilities. Okay, let's go ahead and bring out the major arcanas again. Now, again, we're looking at this lifetime. Well, hello, Mom. Hello, Empress. Look at the bounty on her lap. Some of you could be a single mom. But let me tell you, the Empress would definitely represent the knowledge of not just your past life, but it feels like the things that you did in your past life, like you were into it. So I could see you wanting to continue that. And I have a feeling you did in some way, or you're going to. Some of you may be a single mom. You know, let's not forget, though, also, the Empress is very creative. She's very loving and nurturing, but she's also very powerful. Her power comes from the wisdom of her experiences. I often feel like the Empress has walked the path of all the queens. So, all that wisdom, but also the wisdom of past lives. And I do feel like a few of you may be single moms. Could be a single father. Look at this. Destiny. Literally, like destiny has followed you. And who is going to take advantage in the best of ways of what destiny has to offer than the Empress? And why is that? Because the Empress, she's been through it. She's had loss. She's had hardship, but she's not allowing it to interfere in her present energy nor her future. She knows that, right? She's forgiven. She's let go. The devil. Card of Capricorn. Devil can certainly talk about illusions. Some of you may feel like you're going to be single forever. I don't know where that's coming from, but all of a sudden I feel that. Like, am I always going to be single? The answer is no. But the devil can make you feel that way. What's interesting is we had the lovers in the past life. Well, in the devil's energy, in a lot of tarot decks, you'll see that the devil is or has an influence over the lovers, almost like keeping them apart. But we have power over the devil. That's what we want to remember. We have power over the dark. The Empress knows that. Can talk about temptations. And if that's the case, I would just ask yourself, are there any patterns that you've been noticing? Like I keep getting pulled back to certain type of energy. Sitting as the Empress, though, I feel like this is energy you would have already realized and learned from. Because I feel like the Empress is ready to spin that wheel. Maybe the devil's trying to cast an illusion that this isn't her destiny, but she knows better. Now, for some of you, it could literally just be Capricorn. All right, so let's go ahead and take them. So we have now the Empress over the Hierophant. We have the Wheel, look at that, over Temperance, who tells you to trust in divine timing. And then, interesting, we have the Devil over Justice. So for some of you, there could be something that in this lifetime that you felt like you were tempted to over and over again. But again, it's illusionary. Or let me put it a different way. Can you break yourself free from it? The answer is yes, you can. But you do have to know that it is illusionary. All right, let's go ahead and use the Universal Tarot. Let's move into this lifetime and let's look for the synchronicities. So that was not a good shuffle. Let's do another one. I like a nice clean shuffle right before I start. Much better. All right. Give him a cut. So again, look at that. Your cards didn't want to come up. Let's look for the synchronicities. Okay, more than two cards. We have the Five of Wands. We have the Fool. We have the Seven of Pentacles. I feel like right there is tying the past life to the present life. But look at this. We have the Eight of Swords. Eight of Swords is a self-created prison based out of fear. But it is mirroring the Five of Wands. So the Five of Wands is about drama. It's fighting. It's people wanting their way. And it feels like you kind of got stuck in this energy. It is a five, so it does want change. And then we move directly into the full. So for some of you, that's what you're doing. You're having this realization of, again, the devil's energy. Well, I have a feeling it's casting an illusion that you're stuck when you're not stuck. You may just have to take a chance. Take a chance on yourself. But where is the fool heading to? The Seven of Pentacles. Seven of Pentacles to me is your tree of life. The pentacles on this tree are, I feel like, your soul's intentions. But you do have to take a leap of faith. I feel like the best thing you can do with the Five of Wands is leave it because it's drama filled. And because it's a five, it is asking for change. Even the Eight of Swords is an eight, which talks about a new beginning. It's like setting yourself free. Knowing that you're a lot stronger than you may think you are. We have the Two of Pentacles, so I feel like some of you are questioning that right now. Do I leave or do I stay? Ten of Cups under the Fool. I think you leave. I think you leave. Let's just say you rise above this drama. Ten of Cups. Well, that is love, my friends. That's a house of harmony. This is the journey the Fool is on now. It's connected right to the Fool. It is like we're on this journey to find this lost lover, so to speak. We feel they're lost, but they're not lost. It just may not be the right time. But again, the Empress is just about ready to spin that wheel. And I have to say, the Empress and the Eight of Swords, they don't go together. So that tells me that a lot of you have freed yourself from, for whatever reason you created this prison. For whatever reason you felt stuck. You're having that realization that you're not. Doesn't mean it's easy, right? The change is easy, but the Fool still takes a leap. And by the way, the Fool does not bring in, the Fool extracts the wisdom of the last journey, let's say the last 9 years, the last cycle, but then lets the rest of it go. This Fool looks like he is on a journey towards the Ten of Cups. Some of you may have realized, like, you were with someone and it's like, okay, it's just not fulfilling me in the way that I had hoped. And I feel like some of you are right now in this question mode. Do I stay or do I go? The only one who can uncreate the Eight of Swords is the one who created it. So, in other words, the only one who can set oneself free is oneself. But then it is freedom, baby. It's freedom to go on this adventure. And that's how the Fool would look at it. Like, this is an adventure. We have the Chariot. That's kind of like the vehicle. Chariot, card of Cancer. But the Chariot represents unlimited potential. Well, between that Eight of Swords and the Five of Wands, that is not the potential I feel many of you were looking for. So change is needed. But this change, if you allow, just, again, it's like taking on the Fool's energy and looking at this next, it's very fitting because we're getting ready to end a 9-year cycle and start a brand new cycle. Well, being in the Fool's energy is a great way to start, right? I'm looking at this next 9 years as an adventure. I do feel like, yes, I hope I find the Ten of Cups, but whatever happens, like, I'm ready for this adventure. So this really does speak about unlimited potential, but it's coming over your tree of life. So, don't cut yourself out of that equation. The chariot needs balance, justice, balance. And many times when I think of the chariot, it's the balance of the feminine and the masculine, but really within us, the light, the dark. It's more the understanding of it and then not allowing it to get in our way. When you find true balance within yourself, then chances are you're not going to take a whole lot of bullshit, like, So I feel like some of you are freeing yourself, jumping in the chariot as the fool. You're heading towards a destined time. That's clear. It's all clear. We have the King of Pentacles. King of Pentacles. Big old pentacle in his hand. Can be Virgo, Taurus, Capricorn. I'm wondering though, because he is mirroring the Two of Pentacles. Is he someone who's staying or is he someone who's going? So let's continue. We have Four of Pentacles. Five of Swords. And the Nine of Wands. Boy, I feel like the Nine of Wands is needed here. Because the Nine of Wands is really reflecting upon, at least the last 9 years. But this is reflecting on your life without judgment. Like, don't put yourself down like, what was, like, shame on me, shame on me. No. That's just human nature. And our soul knows that. It's just like, but can we break ourselves free? So, this is you reflecting on how you want your life to look. The things that you have gone through. But this is a type of reflection where you're really noticing your own growth. The things that I've learned, like every wand behind him is an experience that he's been through and he's overcome. I mean, of course, some of them might be good. Some of them might have been difficult. But he overcame them all. I call this person my spirit warrior. This is a great image of, you can see him kind of like busting out of his clothes. Like he's got these stitches here. And that's a representation of his spiritual muscles. Right? It's not that he grew. It's his spiritual muscles grew. Simply by this reflection. Now, come on. Five of Swords. You have the Five of Wands and the Five of Swords. And then you kind of being stuck in it. But both of them are asking for change. So this speaks about toxic type energy. Can talk about toxic people, a toxic person. Definitely something is not working out in your favor. Again, the devil could talk about, energy that you kept going back to maybe. Or even like the type of person. But I feel like through this reflection, you now see that. You get it. You understand it. And I don't feel like you'll repeat it. You're rising above. And give yourself credit for that. That truly is what the Nine of Wands to me means. Like, look at the things that I've overcome. And you have. Now what do I want to do? Because remember, 9 is about final reflection. Well, that makes sense. And we're in that 9 personal year, or not a universal year, and then the full. So that's what would follow that 9. You know, there's a happy home full of love somewhere on your horizon. Will the fool stay on that path? I feel like the fool is very spiritually inclined. So I feel like the path that I'm following, it feels almost like I felt guided. Beautiful. 6 of Swords. Goodbye, Fies. This is all about moving on. This is showing that who's ever in that 8 of Swords, you free yourself. Some of you, it could be a change of homes. But the one thing I want to say is I feel like if this is talking about a current relationship or a relationship that you were in that does not feel like it worked out, it may not have started with a very strong foundation to start with. You know what I mean? Because I do feel like the best relationships, they think about that foundation. Like, let's start with a strong foundation, or let's build a strong foundation. But I feel like what was, it kind of didn't have a leg to stand on. But you know that now. That's the thing, like, you know that now. And that you're taking the human action that I feel Temperance is asking, that your spirit guides really want you to take. This is you putting all that bullshit behind you. I feel like this King of Pentacles, I'm sorry, I feel like he's out. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that a King of Pentacles is out. Like if, let's say you're interested in a Taurus, a Virgo, or a Capricorn, it doesn't necessarily mean that that person is out. But this person here is out. Why? Well, when I think of the King of Pentacles, first thing I think of is loyalty. Well, because there's so many fies, hard fies around this, I don't feel like I had that. I just don't feel like I had that. And I feel like some of you thought long and hard about this. Now, this could certainly be someone of your past, but the energy would still be affecting you. Unless you've cleared it. You know, the Fool, there's no way, much like the Empress, that either one of them are going to stay in this drama-filled energy or this toxic energy. No way. So I feel like the Fool has already left it. And the 6 of Swords now is a great omen that you're breaking yourself free. All right, let's see what's on the bottom of this deck. We have the Knight of Swords. Look at him rushing in. Here I come to save the day. I shouldn't have said that because, don't wait for someone else to save your life. Save your own life. All right, we're going to give this a couple good shuffles since we used it already. Look at that. How'd that turn around? This is so weird. So the Eight of Pentacles was reversed. Not reversed, but flipped around in the deck. Eight of Pentacles. Some of you may be starting a new business adventure. Look, it just popped out. The Knight of Pentacles. Guardian Angel energy. This Knight speaks about coming in the right time. It has a gift. It has one of those blessings of past life. I feel like I can definitely see what it means by when it says the right time because there is toxicity, drama. Wow, the gift that I bring, it doesn't fit in that energy. It's almost like a reward for moving on from it. This night, I feels a guardian angel, and his message is patience. Slow moving night. Unlike the Knight of Wands and the Knight of Swords over here, where I feel like it's kind of rushing in, this night comes at the right time. And what this night brings is truly meant to enhance your life. It talks about something that's coming into your physical life. Now, we're not taking it yet, but I definitely feel like it was meant to be shown. Give it just a couple more shuffles. Okay, let's give him a cut. And I probably will bring in the romance angels, but let's start with these. And again, we're going to start at the beginning, but we're going to read it as a whole, keeping in mind everything we've already learned from our past life. I feel like some of you are writers or you have that skill, but you may have found yourself like having writer's block. But I feel like it's the energy around you that's blocking you because I feel like I get this feeling like I'm living with someone, and because I'm living with them and they have so much drama and there's just always something going on, but it never gives me the time I need to calm myself and maybe to write that book I wanted to write or, use your voice in a way, whatever you want to create. I feel like there were a lot of blocks around that, but I feel like once you set yourself free, then I feel like your energy clears, and remember, we want to let go. If we leave, we got to let it go. Like, just extract the wisdom, but don't carry the heaviness of those experiences. Reflect upon it so that you can let it be because you're heading to something new, destined, meant to be. And the clearer my energy can be, wow, the less obstacles that get in your way. That's what the Knight of Pentacles says. That's why the Knight of Pentacles says, I come at the right time. Oh my. Look at this. We have the Death card, but in reverse. Now, it's interesting because I'm picking a few things up. First thing I'm picking up is this our husband from a previous life in this lifetime. So I do feel that. But I also feel the resistance of ending something. And I feel like the resistance is more of because you're maybe uncomfortable with the uncertainty. So I feel like what this is saying is, jump in that fool's energy. Like, think of it this way. This is your life, yours. It was given to you. It's your blessing. Your soul came here to have these adventures, these experiences, even in your past life, lessons and then blessings. Know that you're worth it, know your value. And I get this feeling some are like having a hard time putting something out there because I feel like you may not trust within yourself, or you may feel that, well, will other people respond? Again, I feel like you carry that wisdom of your ancestors, and yes, we will respond. We will respond. Okay, what am I holding? All right, the Nine of Swords. So this is worry, but the meaning of this card is unnecessary worry. Something just has you hung up, but it doesn't feel good. Like it feels pretty clear that the energy has a lot of drama and toxicity attached to it. Where am I in this picture? Like, where is it benefiting me? It doesn't feel like it is. The meaning of this card is unnecessary worry. And sometimes the worry is just making a change. Some people have a hard time with making changes. Though I do want to say, if you have a life path 5, get comfortable with changes. Your soul came here to have these adventures. So this worry, it's unnecessary. Though understandable. It is another 9. I guess it's 2 different ways of looking at the same picture. I can look at it through a fear-based mind, or I can look at it in the way of how I've grown. The hell with who's ever in these other 5s. Like, don't let anything come between you and your dreams, and believe in them. I feel like that's important. Like, believe in them. Believe that your past life has a lot of wisdom that is available to you. Some of you already know that. Well, hello, magician. The first thing I felt when I picked him up was like potions, like I'm mixing potions. And I don't mean like as a witch, unless it's a good witch, you know what I mean? But I don't know why. It's the first thing I felt like. It felt like that wisdom of your past life. But this is the manifester. Also, I want you to notice the infinity symbol on right in front of him. As above, so below, no beginning, no end. Goes on, it's infinity, right? There's no breaks in it. The magician is the fool's really greatest mentor, and he's coming right next to the fool. Teaches the fool that you really possess everything you need to be successful on this next journey, this next adventure. I feel like it's representing everything I've learned, but also this wisdom that will never leave me. And it's there. Some of us, we just got to find it. Right here, the 7 of Pentacles. Meant to be. The Hierophant. It's interesting because it kind of came out reversed, but not really. So let's just say that the Hierophant wants you to believe in yourself. This is your faith. This is your morals. I feel like who's ever in the 5 of Wands is also in the 5 of Swords. And I don't feel like their morals are that high. And so be it. They have every right to live life the way they want to live. But you have every right to live life the way that you want to live. And I do feel big differences in our morals. The Hierophant wants you to believe. The Hierophant wants you to have faith in the light, in your spiritual team. The Hierophant your spiritual team can't make you break yourself free, but boy, they can make it uncomfortable. But that's all they can do. You have to break yourself free. They will try everything they can, send you feelings, give you dreams of what can be, even make things more difficult, putting obstacles and challenges in your way. And you may be like, what the hell? Well, that's because they only know, it's because they know what exists. They know what's on your tree of life, and they only want to help you manifest it. So, though it can be resistance, it's for your benefit. By the way, another 5 coming over the 8. So, that 8, will I set myself free? And it doesn't even have to talk about a person. Just if you're having, like, if you feel, I don't know, like all of a sudden I feel like, what was I made for? Oh, Billie Eilish. Do you know how I know that song? My granddaughter sang it. It's funny, and someone sang it on The Voice the other day, and I was like, oh, my granddaughter did better than that. Anyway, look at this. 10 of Cups in reverse over the 2 of Pentacles. Wow. It's like this king may have promised you the 10 of Pentacles. King or queen, by the way. We have to keep in mind that we have both feminine and masculine watching the reading. So I do keep that in mind. But listen, ten of Cups in reverse, right next to the 10 of Cups in the upright. 10 of Cups in reverse has you making a decision. What I thought was going to happen, and then what actually happened. It feels like there's no love left in this house, but there's plenty of love in this house. They're different houses. Some of you may feel like, well, maybe I'll never find love. Some may be around my age and feel like, okay, I'm getting up there in age and I'm never going to find love. Well, I was 58 when I found the love of my life. This king may have promised, like, oh, we're going to have a beautiful life together. But then the truth comes out. I say it often, like, one of the things that we should do, and maybe that's what the 4 of Pentacles, again, is about, because it is about a foundation. And with these 2 5s right next to it, that feels like, an uneven number. So it doesn't feel steady to me. Okay, I don't need to over explain it. I feel like it's pretty clear. So let's just say the love has drained out of that home. The Emperor over the 10 of Cups. Looking for a different type of man. This is someone that we can look up to. This is someone who is on a spiritual journey. The Emperor, very compassionate and empathetic. Excuse me 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. I was gone for just a second. So anyways, we're on the Emperor. I should say it is card of Aries, though. I certainly don't feel like it has to represent Aries. And you know what I just realized is we have the Empress in this lifetime, the Emperor and the Empress. It feels like the same past life love. But maybe it took either, or maybe both. Maybe both have gone through similar situations, because they are very much alike, though they go about things differently. Let's put it a different way. They both have the ultimate goal in mind of helping, of healing. The emperor is someone who is methodical, like puts plans into place, where the empress really just kind of goes by the seat of her pants, but yet she knows what she's doing, but she's really trusting that spiritual energy. Interesting, because I also feel like, it's reminding me of a country song, and I think the title, because I'm not really I like all music, but I'm not like the biggest country follower. Um, big time, little time. I don't know. I can't think of their name, but they have a song it's called "A Better Man," and I remember the lyrics, and I don't know. Some of you may want to look it up. Some may not, but for some reason, that's really coming into play here. Just the realization that the Emperor and the Empress are in the same reading. The Emperor is coming over in the upright of this Ten of Cups, also the Fool right above him. I would not be surprised if, when these two come together, because remember, the Empress is just about ready to spin that wheel, which means, as the Fool, I'm heading towards a destined time. Wow. Hello, love. Hello, love. You know, I always call the Emperor and the Empress my power couple, because I just feel like if anyone can make it, they can. It doesn't guarantee like an issue-free life, but they both have a lot of wisdom, and it's because they've both been through it that they've both overcome. And that does mean like forgiving. It's interesting. Sam and I had a discussion yesterday, and we were talking about that because, he grew up with a big Italian family. There were 7 kids, and when his parents passed away, the older siblings did not follow the parents' wishes, and Sam carries that like so heavily on his heart. And we had the discussion of, I said, like the things that I've been through. I said, I really did take the time to forgive. Now, I didn't pick up the phone and call anyone. I just forgave. I forgave myself for getting into certain situations, but then allowing myself to be this fool. So, anyways, I just feel like, there's certain things that happen, like the night before reading, that I had no clue I was even going to do this reading today. But the synchronicities just, number one, give me confirmation. But boy, I love the Emperor over this Ten of Cups. Yes, there's fear above that, but it's unnecessary fear. This house, this Ten of Cups in reverse, the love has drained from that house. Someone may just be afraid of change itself. What will I do? How will I survive? Well, again, think of those talents that some of you know that you have, and some may be untapped, but this may be what you need. You may need that clear, that time where there's no drama. And I feel like that's what's going to bring out all these creative things within you. This person, he's holding degrees. I feel like it's a degree of life, a degree of wisdom. Could be the scrolls. Okay. But this is great news. This is great news. And all of a sudden, I got goosebumps. It's like we found our lovers. We found our lovers from past life. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And even coming over or connected to the death card, but the death card being in reverse feels like both are in this lifetime. Five of Wands over the Chariot. And then the Moon over the King of Pentacles. And I could not be happier to see this. The Eight of Cups. It's reminds me also of the Six of Swords. This is where someone is moving on. I feel like this is saying part of a reason why I may stay in certain situations is fear, maybe fearful. The uncertainty, like what's next? Well, I want to put that power back in your own hands because you are the creator. You have the ability to create the type of life that you want. And the more that you're able to clear and say no more to energy that doesn't deserve your time or effort anyway, the more you're opening up these blessings. You know how we saw the Knight of Pentacles in the beginning? And that Knight of Pentacles tells you, I come at the right time, but what I bring truly enhances and blesses your life. Well, I feel like it's the Emperor and the Empress. I feel like that's one thing. But I feel like it's also bringing you courage, or maybe that blessing is because you had that courage. It's freeing yourself from whatever it is you feel you need to free yourself. It's by not allowing fear to stop you from moving forward. Sometimes we just get stuck. Hmm. Five of Wands going to come out in a better place because we have the Five of Wands right there. But now the Five of Wands over this vehicle, I feel like this is you driving away. Adios. Adios, amigos. And then the Eight of Cups. Well, this is emotional clarity. This is a sense of courage to me because this is someone who is willing to look at, the cups that didn't work out and maybe even understanding, well, maybe they weren't meant to. Maybe what I was learning is what I do not want in love. And that is important to know. I feel like all along you have been becoming the Empress. And now you're reaching that status. Eight, a new beginning. But this person's heading towards the Nine of Cups, inner harmony, and fulfillment of wishes. Bye bye. It's like bye bye, old life. Hello, adventure. Wherever you may lead me, I will follow you into. Dun, 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 dun. I just forgot the words. I mean, I just love that the Empress just came over the upright of the Ten of Cups with the Ten of Cups right beside it in reverse, mirroring that King who I kind of felt was part of the issue. And if truly, let's just say the love has drained out of a certain home, why do I want to stay there? Now, I'm not trying to talk you into anything. I want you to follow your own guidance. Um, but there is a big element here of at least freeing yourself from you thinking that you aren't capable. You thinking that you cannot create a great life for yourself. Just think of the past life where there wasn't a ton of money, but this person was so satisfied. There was enough money, don't get me wrong. Look at that. I come at the right time. He's coming over the four or the five of swords. So this is you having that realization of what and who may be toxic in your life, but it's following the Eight of Cups. So this is you not only freeing yourself, but you're not allowing those cups of the past to interfere in your present nor your future. And look what this night is bringing in the Emperor to the Empress. Wow. We have the Devil again over the Nine of Wands. There's that Queen of Cups. Here she is from our past life. She's over the Six of Swords. Moving on. It's almost like I may not remember this love, and it really was a perfect love. I may not remember exactly who it is, but I have a feeling that some of you haven't, like, how do I say this? Like, you've been in relationships, but I feel you may have never felt truly fulfilled. Wow. If this is opening for you, but I feel like you have a big say so because it all starts with you breaking yourself free, whatever that means to you. It's having faith, right? That when you jump into the fool's energy, when you take a leap of faith on yourself, and maybe even look at it in a different perspective, like, I'm ready for this adventure, whatever it may bring. Remember, your spiritual team, they're here to help guide you. They're here, and temperance, they're here to help guide this together. And listen, maybe even the devil, right? But in the opposite direction. She's holding that cup. I feel like this is a representation of what was the past life and now in the current life. It's interesting that this is coming down at the bottom of the spread. But do we have to wait? I feel like no. The power is in your hands. And let's just say you're stuck and you don't know your way out. But that's when you really want to speak to your guides, like, give me the signs. This is asking you to have faith. And this is you from that past life. And look at that's the strength card. Everything you've overcome. This is inner balance. That Nine of Wands, I feel like, is what helped you find this inner balance. This is about a courageous person. This is courage that you never lose. You might have to muster it up sometimes, but it's there. It's interesting how the devil, unless it's a Capricorn for you, has followed. Maybe this love is that great that the dark doesn't even want it. But you have power over that. Remember that. You have power over that. It's like your guardian angel is saying, we're so proud of you. We know what you've been through. We know what you're seeking. And we're here to help you. But certain things just wouldn't make sense to come into your life when you're dealing with certain situations. Let me just say, yes, the Ten of Cups is in reverse. And that sucks. But does it really? Because right next to it is the Ten of Cups in the upright. And who comes over it? The Empress's counterpart. The mother and the father. They're back together again. Thanks to a very special angel, a very special guide. I feel like what this is saying is it was important to you for you to understand like the power that you carry. And honestly, I see the difficulty, but I also see where, again, some of you are realizing, like, I just haven't had that fulfillment. And do I have a right to go search for it? Well, absolutely you do. I mean, absolutely. And this Empress is just getting ready to spin the wheel. And there's the devil right there, almost like trying to stop her, but he can't. She knows better. Now, I won't leave it off the table because we keep seeing the devil, that for some of you, it can just literally mean that this may be a Capricorn, though I hate to give a sign. And the only reason I hate to give a sign is because I don't want you to look for just like, oh, well, you're not a Capricorn, so you can't be my person. Do you know what I mean? He is very close to the King of Pentacles, though. But this King of Pentacles has very difficult energy around him, and I do feel like this king is leaving, hopefully, or you're leaving. Let's just say there doesn't seem to be any love left. And if I'm staying, I may be staying just because that's what I know. Remember, the moon can speak about uncertainties, and someone could certainly put it in your head that, you leave me, you'll never find this, you'll never be happy. Well, again, that's the influence of dark energy, because that's a lie. Wow. Okay. Before we bring in the romance angels, I want to bring in the clarifying love situations. I just want to look at that, the Emperor, and look at this, Justice. Oh my gosh, look at this. So this is exactly what I was talking about as it relates to lovers. This is also the devil. These are the lovers. And look at the influence he has over them. It's illusionary, but they bought it. But then we have judgment, your spiritual team, giving you power back, number one. But they are calling you to the present moment. Why? Because that's where your blessings lie. That's where our signs are sent. We don't send your signs back there or out there, right here, right now. And then the Emperor, who literally made his way out on the page. And then the Knight of Swords. So now I get a feeling the Emperor, in some way, is going to communicate with you. And just the way this night is coming in, there could be recognition pretty quickly, whether we know like we spent past lives together or not. It feels like there may be some type of recognition, like soul recognition. And I feel like through communication, you two just might fit. I'm saying you too. I feel like there's quite a few. But I feel like you will figure this out. Like you'll figure this out. And what I mean figuring out is that you're soul connected and that you've had previous lives together. We're just looking at one lifetime. Well, we're looking at two lifetimes, last and this one. Um, but chances are you've had other lifetimes too. But the reason why I was looking at your last life is I wanted to see what issues may have followed. You know, well, the gifts that you had and still have, the love that you loved, and here they are again. It could not be showing in a more perfect way. I mean, yes, there's a lot of angst. I get that. But I feel like your guardian angel is trying to turn your head, get you to believe in what may feel impossible, but it's only impossible until you take a step forward on this new path. All right, let's go ahead and bring in the clarifying love situations. And we're just going to take a couple. All right. Restraints test. Trapped in instability. Resist impulsive urges to find steadier ground. Trapped in instability. Resist impulsive urges to find steadier ground. Interesting. And then we have Revelations Canvas. Expose truths and divulge secrets to create a masterpiece of clarity. Interesting. Interesting, because I feel like what it feels to me is this is you, like truly allowing you to be you. But I feel like in a spiritual sense, like the gifts that you had and still have. And maybe it's something that some of you have kept to yourself, but now I feel like you may start sharing it with the world. Maybe you didn't again trust within yourself or trust that others would even be interested. But I feel the opposite will happen. Some of you may have a child who is interested in what you do. Because let's not forget about the ancestors. Okay, let's finish this reading. Though we don't really need them. But let's see. Let's finish them with the romance angels. It is safe for you to love. Open your heart to give and receive the highest energy of all. But that's what the Empress and the Emperor are. It is safe for you to love. Open your heart to give and receive the highest energy of all. Hello, wedding. This situation involves marriage. Listen, it can involve marriage twice. Some of you could have been married to someone, divorced. We did justice. And now maybe marrying, listen, I feel like the emperor and the empress are going to make a true commitment to each other, whether they wed or they live together. It's about the type of commitment. This is giving yourself to someone for the rest of your life. But this time, not just anyone. And then attraction. You attract romantic love by enjoying this moment fully. This moment. Just what your spiritual team wants you to do. Be in the present moment. Exactly where the Fool lives, in the present moment. You attract romantic love by enjoying this moment fully. I know I keep emphasizing this moment. And it doesn't have to mean everything's going great, but there's got to be something I can be grateful for. And I feel like to top off the reading, which I'm surprised I didn't bring out, I'm going to let Mother Mary close this reading. Let her whisper her words of wisdom. And then we will let it be. Whispering words of wisdom. Let it be. Let it be. Let it be. I could see that song, the lyrics of Let It Be. I can definitely feel that in this. There's a couple songs that I feel the lyrics actually mean something. Okay. Well, hello, Mother. So, weird how I said that, Mother. I open my heart to my mother's humanness and her divinity. So, that can mean different things to different people. But the first thing that popped in my head is the gifts of the mother have followed to the daughter or the son. And then integrity. I trust my ability to know what is true for me. My God, that's so important. I trust my ability to know what is true for me. If someone's been filling your head with lies, or telling you you're not worthy, or making you feel that way, don't believe that. Believe yourself. Know, know that this is a real message to you. I trust my ability to know what is true for me. Right next to mother. Interesting. Some of you may have mothers who have crossed over, who are very proactive in your life, especially if there's a gift that feels like it followed. And that it doesn't have to be that way, because I do feel like mothers, and they're guiding you, and their their wisdom seems to follow you, but also their talents. And again, I know it's not everyone, but that feels like the perfect ending to this reading. So I'm going to let that be. Um, these are those type of readings where you may have to watch it more than once to really pick up everything that's in it. And also trust your intuition, even over mine. If you feel like your intuition is clear, trust it. If your spirit guides are speaking to you, listen, because I'm giving you what feels like your story, a story. But I feel like there's many stories within this story. but I'm going to let that be. I loved it. I loved it, but I always love them. Um, I thank you guys. I thank you that you just let me do these readings. Um, Again, one of my favorite readings to do, and mainly because I feel like if we understand, you know, that a past life, that there's many things that do follow us, and sometimes karma follows us. But I do feel like a lot have paid off. Um, I just feel like in a past life, I just feel like loving and helping. Doesn't mean that house didn't have issues, right? She lost the love of her life. She had two boys she had to raise. There was a farm she had to take care of. But then she was growing what feels like herbs. I feel like there's recipes. Some of you may, and then I'm thinking, oh my God, I have an actual recipe box in the room on the table. So, some of you may find them like unexpectedly. All right, we'll let that be. I love you guys. I thank you. I'll see you next time at our table. Bye bye.